What's up, guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. I'm over here at the shop, B&K Performance. We got my junk pushed in here today, so we're going to pull that motor out real fast. Y'all saw in the last video, we cut the oil filter apart, had a little bit of bearing material. By a little bit, I mean a lot. So I don't know if there's one bearing or 10 bearings or every main bearing and every rod bearing. It is not in the best of shape, though. So we're going to pull it apart real fast. The goal tonight, get the motor out of the car. We'll snatch it up, get it out, get it on the engine stand. So how slow we are at getting it out. Usually it goes pretty fast. And I don't know if y'all noticed, look at this. I look like a doggone Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I was doing some welding on the car, the video y'all just saw. And some of the spots out of position, I suck at TIG welding, and I suck even worse at TIG welding when you're out of position. And so I had on just the goggles only with no face protection. Yeah, that was a bad idea. Look how red this thing is. I got goggle face. Dude, this is terrible, and it hurts so bad. So listen, don't weld without full protection. PPE is key. I'd never wear it. All right, guys, check it out. All right, guys, we're making some progress over here. Got Milton over here working hard today. We ain't seen him in a while. He's been working. Work's been kicking his butt. He ain't been able to come racing with us. So one of the things to point out, we know this thing killed a bearing and the oil supply for the turbo. If you notice, this goes down here to my filter housing. And if you do not have the ability to get filtered oil, then you're going to kill a turbo. So this one, that right there, basically I just drilled and tapped into the outlet port of the filter. So that is straight out of the filter, and it's clean oil, and it's coming up here. If this would have been on this part of the turbo, you see it's got a cap there, or the block, I used to have it here. All that material coming out through the mains, what it would do is come through, hit this point, and then go into the turbo, and then lock your turbo up. But since I've got clean filtered oil, then that's going to be no problem. I'm not going to have an issue at all. If you don't have the ability to do this, you need to put an inline oil filter going to the turbo to prevent that from happening. And you can see it's really cold outside, it's warm out here. But this is one of the things with, I had a lot of questions that I saw, you know, condensation. The oil, yeah, the oil is green. The oil is green, it's Brad Penn oil. And I've got my mismatched rockers, but you see all the condensation. There's just tons of condensation, you know, from the methanol, from condensation. I mean, you know, some of this is from where it's warming up in here. The motor was super cold and we got it in the shop. The other thing that's super important, this thing's pretty easy to do. But when we pull these lines back, something I used to make, and I don't have anymore. I mean, I didn't really have a lot of people buying them. But I got these tags that I made, and basically, they're just labeled with what is what. So some of this stuff is pretty easy, but some of it is, you know, pretty complicated. So, you know, get some tape. I mean, the Holley stuff, it comes off. If you have a professional company wire it, they put some better diagrams on it. But I come up with these little labels here. But I mean, they work like that. That's clearly like the map sensor. But I don't know. I may start back making those. I had a few people hit me up wanting them. But it just makes it nice and easy when you're going to put it back in. First thing Milton said, he's like, "Oh my God, there's wires everywhere." He's like scared of the fuel injection. I was too, because it does look complicated. But it cannot be that. It's not that bad when you think about it and plan ahead. All right, let's keep going. Okay, we're getting closer. We got one header off. A lot of people say, well, why didn't you just pull all this stuff out of the car and then take it off? You can do that, but I mean, you can't really access much anything any different except for those few header bolts he's trying to get to there. But we got this thing out. See, I dropped some oil all over the place. My oil line, it didn't have much oil in it, but it was nice and clean. No metal flakes. Something else I wanted to show y'all. This is my cam sink that I use. This is out of a 5.7 Vortex. You can get it anywhere. eBay, it's usually got that little crab cap on it, and they're cheap. They're like 50 bucks. This actual top is a cast aluminum. That is from a place called EFI Connection. It actually was like 30 or 40 bucks. Not real bad either. They sell the whole get up, but you know, I ended up piecing it together. Gear down here, that thing's in good shape. One thing to look at for this gear though is it is not a standard diameter. It's not a standard 500 shaft. I think it's like a 427 or something. It's something real oddball, so it's kind of small. It's a small shaft, so you got to have a special gear. That gear was a little more expensive, but you can do that if you wanted to. MSD is now selling that cam sink for like 200 bucks. They didn't have that when I pieced this together, So, I mean, it's one of those things. That's the reason I did that. I might get a cam sync later. So, something else I wanted to point out. This intake throttle body elbow is Edelbrock 9849. This is an eBay throttle body. Now, this is a 102 millimeter LS throttle body, and it is turned upside down. And it actually fits. You have to grind in there a little bit. It's kind of hard to see, but you can have to grind it so that it works. But it actually will open up and fit. So cheap 102 millimeter throttle body, Edelbrock elbow, works like a champ. Okay, so we're about to pull the intake off. Something we'll look at too. We'll get the intake pulled off of it, and you see the way I do my fuel is it comes up from the pump, goes in this fuel rail, and then loops around in the back with a big number 12. Comes back out here, and then at this point it simply is the regulator, and then it goes down and goes back into the cell. But a lot of people don't do it that way, but I decided to do it that way. So it's just one of those things that works out good, and it'll all come off as one piece. But what we'll do is one thing to look at when you pull the intake off, if you ever have the intake off of it for any reason, a lot of times when you're getting a bearing, you'll actually see bearing material under the intake as well. So that's always interesting. I have no idea how it gets under the intake, but it does. All right, let's pull the intake off of it real quick and see if we got any bearing material in there. Y'all want to bet? I bet we do. As much as was in that filter. Just pull it up. It's got silicone holding it. Snatch it off. Yeah, there's bearing material right there. See that? Yep. You always get bearing material when you're killing the bearings. It always comes to the top of the motor. So it's not as bad as I've seen it. Oh, that's a piece of dirt. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so we're getting this thing taken apart. Something else to think about when you're taking these things apart. We had Keith in there bumping the motor over, and the reason why is this is a set of shaft rockers, and they're all just a little bit different. But see how this has got tension on it? That's got tension on it. This one is loose. That one is loose as well. That one's loose, and this one's loose. So these middle ones here, you've got 3 little bolts here that hold this. This is a hardened shaft, this one-piece shaft. If I was to try to take this off in this situation right here, it would break that shaft. Ask me how I know. It will break it. I've broken 2, and it breaks it right where the bolt is. So whatever you do, do not take the shaft rocker arms off when one of them is under load and the spring is down. I know if you got like a regular poly lock on it, sometimes you can just wring it out and it's fine. Done that millions of times, but not on shafts. We're at a unique point in my build here. Generally, when we get to this point, there's usually a piston or 2 missing. Some of them are turned sideways. I had last time one was turned upside down, like completely upside down. The beans were above the frank. I don't understand how that happened, but it did. So I'm really excited. All the pistons look fine. I mean, I don't see any issues there. No abnormal bore wear that I can see. I mean, there's some down in there, but this thing is being 4.165 bore now for, gosh, it's been 5 years, 7 years. So it's probably going to just stay that. Hopefully, we'll see. But yes, it does have little pop-up pistons in it. So this is a little dome, but the compression still is super low because it is a short, very, very, very short stroke. 6.200 rod. The crankshaft is 3.34. Standard 23-degree profiler heads. I mean, they're in pretty good shape. Don't see any odd damage on those. No bent valves, none of that good stuff. A couple shiny valves from where we had to blow up last time. So those are still looking good. So now all we got to do, we're going to jack it back up. Then we'll take the transmission loose, torque converter, and then we'll slide it out. Okay, so we're getting closer. One thing this block has, I pointed it out before, this is a Dart Iron Eagle block. and so it does not have an oil filter provision on the block. So you have to have external. So the one on the side there, the pump is still in the motor with the pickup in the bottom of the oil pan. So it sucks it out, comes out the side of the block, and then it goes in here, and then it goes down, and then it feeds into the back of the motor back here in the back. And so that's how the oil flows. Then it goes down at the back where the cam supply for the oil is. That is completely blocked off. And so what it does is it goes through the mains, then it comes up the front of the block, and then it goes back through the camshaft tunnel this way, and that's how it oils the lifters. And I did have one lifter that we couldn't get out. We ended up getting it out, but we had to pry it out. It's just a little beat up, and it wasn't bad. It's just flared out a little bit on the edges, and you can feel it. I don't know if you can hear it, but you can kind of feel that bearing. That bearing's going bad. So, you know, so I got to get, I'm not going to get a whole another set of lifters probably. All the other ones feel fine, and this one right here, it feels really rough. Both of these feel a little rough. This is the only one that was stuck though. And you can see I kind of had a hard time getting it out, but you're not going to be able to hear it, but I can feel it with my finger. All right, so here we go. We're fixing to pull it out, almost in the short rows. All right, guys, motor's out. So this somebody told me that little drain cock valve was very slow, and it is very slow. But it works good. The water come out good, but the oil is like, yeah, not so much. Okay, so you can see this thing. One of the things I did, I told y'all I only run water into heads, and so I had this thing ventilated, the freeze plugs basically out of it, so that it could get a little bit of airflow through there. I am going to probably put those in. I'm probably going to put water back in the block most likely. You can see this thing is O-ringed. The heads are not receiver grooved. I have to do the little figure 8 pattern up here where that goes together. This thing, like I said, a little dome piston, so that's good. This thing's been together for a year and a half. I looked back through some of my videos, and it was July of 2019 when we put this thing back together. So it's been together for a year and a half, so I can't complain. This oil pan is beat up. It's had a few rods exiting the building, and so it's been repaired. I had last year when I was putting this thing together, I had already put the oil pan on it, and a guy that watches our YouTube stuff, he sent me a message, and he was like, man, I've got an oil pan. He's like, I'm just gonna send it to you. It was an old one. He got it, and it wasn't going to work for him anymore, so he sent it to me. That new pan is going on the block next time, so this pan's going to go out. The only thing I got to do to the other pan, I've got a dash 12 bung. He's only had a number 10 in it. All right, guys, well, that's going to wrap it up for today. Stay tuned for the next video to see the teardown. Comment, like, and subscribe. Don't forget to go to turbojohnracing.com to pick you up some merchandise. Thanks.